The title of my talk is No Day But Today. No day but today. This is a spiritual truth that we humans can so often forget, can't we? We so often are projecting into the future, or we're stuck in the past. But when we lean into this idea that there is no day but today, the now, this moment, this breath, everyone take a breath. This God's Spirit breath. It creates an opening, a spaciousness for us to deeply consider that which is most important. I'm currently teaching a class, Journey of the Soul. Some of you are in it here in the front, where we talk about this idea of our individual soul, and the truth of our soul and its true journey in the world, not to be confused with our egoic mind, but our actual soul. And as I was thinking about this idea of no day but today, what came to me was this idea that, yes, we each have, of course, our individual soul that is on a very, very important journey. And there is also, just as important, the soul of the world, the soul of this world, and how I believe the soul of this world is too on its hero's journey. This soul of the world is a deep idea to consider, especially during these times. Each one of us, I believe, has incarnated here to uplift and to support this collective soul of the world that we are all a part of. And we can do this in whatever corner, whatever block of the world we live in. And this is an ancient idea. It comes from ancient wisdom, going back to Plato, who called the soul of the world anima mundi. Anima mundi. Plato talked about this idea of the soul of the world as being a living being. Isn't that profound? A living being. In the Christian Bible, in Matthew 14, it says, "You are the light of the world." My interpretation of that is that this is the same idea, that each one of us is part of this light. We are each part of this living being, this soul of the world. In New Thought, in contemporary spirituality, that which we practice here, we understand that to be here, we are innately interconnected with every single being on the seen and the unseen sides of life. And we are interconnected with Mother Nature herself. We talk about oneness every week. Shelley and I just do our best to try to come up with the most creative way to say the same thing every week. I hope it's working. This oneness, this anima mundi, this living soul of the world that we are all part of, that science now can point to, we are all stardust. Part of this is why so many of us feel the grief and the pain that is happening in the world today. How can we not, understanding this preface? There is palpable grief all over the world right now for Palestinians and for Jewish people, for Ukrainians and for Russians, for our beloveds in Maine who have a long road of healing ahead of them. I know this deeply. For all of the ways that we are experiencing right now what is called division in our own country. So what do we do with this? How can we tend to the soul of the world right now? This is what I'm going to talk about today. So last week, I talked with you about a very special cathedral in Cologne, Germany. Don't worry, if you didn't see that talk, I'll get you up to speed in less than 30 seconds. Nobody time me, I'll do my best. Okay. So construction began in this cathedral in Cologne, Germany in the year 1248, and for 300 years, generations, families of skilled laborers worked on this cathedral dedicating their lives, knowing that they would never see it come to fruition, knowing that they would never see it completed. For 300 years, they did this work. Then, for whatever reason, there was a generation that lost focus. They lost focus from this great vision. And that cathedral sat unfinished for another 300 plus years. Anyone ever abandon a project you've been working on? Yes, I think every one of us can relate. And as I showed you last week, there was an actual picture of an old medieval crane that sort of stood kind of looming over the unfinished cathedral for that entire 300 plus years. That crane just became part of the landscape. Anyone have an old medieval crane in your life? Yes. So that crane stood there with that unfinished cathedral up until the early 1800s, from 1248 to the early 1800s, when a new group, a new generation of visionaries decided to pick up that glorious vision and once and for all do the work, move their feet to complete it. It is now considered one of the greatest, largest Gothic cathedrals in the entire world. Sometimes in our own lives, we're in a place where that unfinished metaphorical crane is wanting our attention. And we just kind of step back and let it be part of the landscape of our life, right? This can look like dreams or goals that we walked away from, opportunities that we just decided to let go of for whatever reason, moments where we chose for whatever reason to stop creating or building that thing in our life. Sometimes we just needed rest. I don't recommend resting 300 years. You can if you want to. That medieval wooden crane can mean 100 different things to 100 different people. What is it for you, my love? What is that crane in your life? What is it that is beckoning for you to resume, to rebuild, to heal, to pick up again? Or to finally do the required work to close that chapter once and for all, to complete that thing once and for all. With all that is going on in the world today, why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about your individual vision? Because when you realize your vision, it matters deeply to the soul of the world. Your individual vision matters deeply to the soul of the world. So let's take this a little deeper. I invite you in this moment to just easily recall a vision that you've had in the past that came to fruition. Perhaps it was getting a house. Perhaps it was getting married. Perhaps it was meeting a life partner or calling them into your life. Perhaps it was getting healthy or getting sober. Perhaps it was a new job or an education or an important move. Perhaps it was adding to your family in whatever way that works for you. What dream did you have? What vision did you have that came true? Just recall that for a moment. What do you feel when you recall that? Joy. It's joy, my friends. It is joy. It is joy. The world needs more joy right now. This is one of the ways that we can support the soul of this world. It's one of the ways. And it's precisely because there is so much pain in the world right now that I want to remind you of this God-given, Spirit-given gift that is our birthright. That is joy. It feels a little revolutionary right now to be talking about joy, because it is. Because it is in this world right now. It is a courageous thing to choose joy right now. Not to in any way turn away from any of the pain that is happening in the world, far from it. But we are energetic beings, my loves. We are energetic beings, and we are here to uplift the vibrational frequency of this planet. And what this planet needs is joy. It also needs love and peace, yes? And we here in our corner of the world, we can bring that. We can bring that, and we can teach that to future generations, Melanie, with little Jem. I know that it may sound antithetical, and I understand that. But it is a courageous act. It is a courageous act to move from grief to joy. So I'm inviting us to, in a very tangible way, utilize our spiritual tools in order to consciously lean into and harness as much authentic joy and love and peace as we possibly can, because this will help. Because there is a ripple effect in doing this. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Joy is the serious business of heaven." Joy is the serious business of heaven. When we look at it that way, it feels different, doesn't it? It's a spiritual practice to harness and lean into joy wherever we possibly can. And one of the ways we humans experience joy is to accomplish something that is important to us. To complete the vision, to take down that flippin' crane once and for all. Yeah? Because then what happens is, in some way, when we can link our vision to being of service, in some way, it amplifies that joy even more. So for a moment, let's go deeper with this. For a moment, think about that vision that you accomplished, that you just thought of. Think about it again. And now I invite you to, in your mind's eye, recognize, see if you can notice how your vision served at least one other person. How did it serve one other person? For example, if your vision was to create a home, and you ended up sharing that home with someone you love, that's being of service. It makes it that much more joy-filled. If you, let's say, went back to school to become a teacher, you are in service to your students. Do you see? It makes it that much more joy-filled. If your vision was to start a business and you are able to give a certain percentage to those in need, that brings much more meaning and love and joy to your business and to the world. You see? Tagore wrote, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy." I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. when we can connect our vision to supporting at least one other person, not only do we bring our joy onto the planet, we bring their joy and generations that follow, you see? So there's a woman from Detroit who lives in the Highland Park area. Her name is Shemayam Harris, but everyone calls her Mama Shu. Here's her picture. This is Mama Shu. If you don't know who this woman is, she's up for a CNN Hero of the Year award. Mama Shu is an incredible human being. She is a woman who understands that service is joy. She is also a woman who has overcome enormous grief in her own personal life. 2 of her sons died. One at 2 years old was hit by a car, and then years later, her 23-year-old son was killed by gun violence. She lives in an area of Detroit where the plant shut down, and that generation, that government lost focus. And they didn't work to rebuild that area. In fact, it went into disrepair. Many of the buildings were abandoned, and there was all kinds of drug addiction, and it was a very dangerous and difficult place to live because of all of the crime that was happening there as a result of the generation who lost focus of the vision, because it had at one time been an incredibly vibrant, beautiful place, okay? So Mama Shu, shortly after her 2-year-old son was killed, she decided to turn her grief into service, and out of that came her joy. There was a house on her block that she would see all the time that was completely abandoned in disarray and just in a terrible state. And she found out who the company that owned it, and they were asking $5,500, and she said, well, I'll give you, she didn't have $5,500, she said, I'll give you $3,000. She didn't have $3,000 either, but she offered $3,000, and then she got that money, and it took her 8 years and a team of people who joined her in that vision, and they rebuilt that house, and that house became what she called the Homework House. The Homework House, there it is right there, they completely gutted it and redid the inside, and they made it intentionally to look like a home so that children could come there after school and they could do their homework, and they had computers in there. A lot of these kids didn't have computers at home, and it's thriving. This led her to purchase 45 other lots in that same neighborhood over a 15-year period. She created something called the Goddess House, another house they bought and rebuilt. And that's a place where she doesn't charge women any rent. They just come to that house and they sell their goods that they create. Incredible. She helped to create a community garden for those who were food insecure in the neighborhood, and also to teach the children the value of Mother Earth. This is a woman who turned her grief into service, and out of her service, she found joy. This is a woman who contributed and continues to contribute to the soul of the world in the way that she serves her community. So whatever way you may be feeling right now, or grieving right now, or navigating right now, I am here to remind you that there is always a way to see that sunrise through the trees, as I spoke of last week. There is always a way to remember beauty and truth and joy. From the tiniest, littlest thing to what Mama Shu has done. I read this week something that kind of stopped me short. I love Anne Lamott. You all like Anne Lamott, the writer Anne Lamott? Just amazing. And when Russia invaded Ukraine, when Putin invaded Ukraine, let's be clear, she was like on the floor. She was like so many of us, gutted. Where human beings are, where do we put war? It's so hard. And she went out and she was struggling and she was bereft. And of all places, she found herself in a nail salon, sitting at a nail salon. And she said, just paint them sparkly pink. Something happy, something to remind me that there is still beauty in the world. You see? And there were people, of course, who didn't understand that. Anne Lamott understands that it is our job in the midst of all of it to find the joy wherever we can, however we can. And for me personally, what I have learned in my own journey is that the quickest and the fastest way for me to remember joy when I am in a dark place, when I am in a place of sadness or grief, is to be of service. Is to just look up and say, okay, where can I serve? How can I serve? But what can I do? I am just one person, said 8 billion people. We all can do our part, whatever that is, however small, however large. You know, back in 2019, I was talking with Shelley. I've shared this before with some of you, that I had this vision. This teaching is so important, this message of unconditional love and peace and oneness and interconnectedness. And Shelley and I talked about it. And I said, I really, somehow, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I want to stand in the vision that this message will be a global message here at NTCSL. And fast forward, moving through COVID and all of those things, fast forward, we have this global audience. We have this incredible audience that joins us online from all over the place. Hi, everyone. Right? That was a vision. That was a vision that was held right here, that was focused on by the new generation of people and experiences here at NTCSL. That we expanded beyond these 4 walls, and it was a vision that grew over time. And, you know, today, this very day, we have our NTCSL Colorado satellite campus with 6 licensed practitioners in Colorado meeting together, watching on the screen. They're going to pray after. They're doing all the things, watching us right now. Isn't that extraordinary? Shelley and I are planning next year, where each quarter we're going to take turns going there and helping to continue seeding that and growing and building that vision, making sure that come hell or high water, no crane is allowed in. Our community who have gathered there, we love them so much, I love them so much. They are sort of in wonderful alignment with everything that we're doing. We're asking them to do there. And so just like today here after service, we're having a meeting at 12:30 for what we're calling our holiday angels. You're all invited. Shelley will give you all the scoop a little bit later. But it's a way of being of service in this community. And one of the ways, in addition to all of the holiday festivities, one of the ways that we can be of service in this community is to support recently arrived immigrants to right here in Oregon and in Colorado and wherever you may be watching. So for those of you who remember, we did something called the Restart Kits. And all that means is that we put together a team and we see where the need is. And we put together a big tub of, say, a kitchen, all the makings for a kitchen, or a child's bedroom, And we give this to this beautiful organization that is local here that is supporting those who have recently arrived. And they're doing that in Colorado as well. Same exact thing. Same sister organization. We are going to have a giving tree where we're going to support families in need this year. So is NTCSL Colorado. They're going to support families this holiday as well, because it doesn't matter. The four walls don't matter. Remember last week I talked about we're no longer building that cathedral brick by brick. We are building a new world, the soul of this world, thought by compassionate thought, which leads to action by compassionate action. Friends, like the new generation of visionaries who finished the amazing cathedral in Cologne, we too are a new generation of visionaries who are supporting the soul of this world and all of her people. We are here to be benefactors of peace and light. We are here to be bringers of joy wherever we can. We are here to remember the power of hope. We are here to be love itself. Full stop. So, I invite you this week to dust off that medieval crane in your life. I invite you back into your vision, or perhaps into a new one, a vision that serves not only you, but your block, your corner of the world. In however way you can do that. This week, I invite you to consider how you, too, can be of service and bring joy to the world in that way and uplift the soul of this world.